Don't forget to check us out on Patreon, where you'll receive exclusive content to videos that are not available on YouTube. And for those of you that like the one video instead of the 2 video format, you get that as well.
Bam.
For $1.
Bam.
It's $1 a month.
Yep. I think we're cooler than a bag of Cheetos.
You can't even get that for $1.
Hey, that's true. Not hot Cheetos, though. Only like regular Cheetos.
So check us out on Patreon, guys. We hope to see you there. What's up, Patreon? It's your boys.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan, my man George.
What's shaking, guys?
As always, we back again.
Back again.
This is a Lost in Vegas pick. I was about to say Las Vegas pick, but this is a Lost in Vegas pick, baby.
Random.
Yeah, man. Marilyn Manson. So why do we pick him, man?
You know what, man? I wanted to pick Marilyn Manson. This is more of a...
Because he's different. He's a different cat, man. He's very different.
I remember he came out and I was around high school, for me. And we just kind of looked at Marilyn Manson and just thought he was a weirdo. That was me. That was the young George. Before I kind of transitioned into the more open-minded person I am today. And we just kind of almost made fun of him, to be honest with you.
I think everyone did, man.
It was a joke to us.
I think everyone did. And I think that's what his, he was just a polarizing figure for that reason, right? I think he did shit. And I don't know, because I don't know Marilyn Manson, but I think he did these types of things and wore crazy makeup and black stuff just for shock value.
To fuck with people. A lot of what his appearance was, and I'm not saying this was deliberate on his part. Maybe that's just who he is and just how he expresses himself. But it comes off as shock value.
Yeah, it does.
It came off, at least at the time.
Yep.
So we thought it would be fun to revisit Marilyn Manson. We've gotten some requests from him in the past as well. And I just remember him being a big deal as well, man. I mean, he was on every show. People were just like, talk shows. People were just saying he's the Antichrist. Literally, he's the Antichrist. And they thought he was the most evil person in the world. We just thought it was funny.
I specifically remember a time that he was on a talk show, and hey, I don't know if this was true or not, but I remember that he removed a rib of his, and they were saying to give himself, please himself orally, you know what I'm saying, to put it nicely. But I don't know if that was just some shit that they were talking about.
I think I heard that wasn't like something he actually did, but
right.
I don't know how that got out there.
But my point is
confirm that. That's crazy.
Yeah, but just... Yeah.
That's crazy.
But just for that to even be a thing, for someone to even say that about you, man, if someone said that shit about me, I'm clearing that shit up immediately. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that is not going on. But you know what, man? The Beautiful People, have you heard this song, man?
I've heard this song before. This one in Where All Stars Now. In the Dope Show.
When it starts to play, I'll know specifically, but I'm sure
it was a big.
I'm sure I've heard this song.
One thing I wanted to say before we get into the video is that he's actually a very intelligent guy. He's a pretty smart guy. You know what I mean? When you start listening to him and his views, and I say that to say that I wanted to revisit that because I've seen interviews, after my high school years of him, and he's made a lot of sense. I haven't agreed with everything that he said, but
at least he's got a stance on stuff, and you can kind of see how he got to that conclusion.
Very rational,
gotcha.
very sort of a cerebral approach to his own beliefs.
Yep.
And that I have respect for. You know what I mean? So I thought it'd be fun to revisit him because he was such a polarizing figure in the 90s. So let's get into it. Marilyn Manson, The Beautiful People. It's been a while since I've heard this, though. I remember the riffs just being...
Doesn't sound familiar yet.
Those riffs are just...
Yeah. Maybe I have them. He's a weird cat, dude. This is weird though.
To know what metalheads think of Marilyn Manson. You know what I mean? I'm sure the views are.
I think it's gonna be 50-50.
You think so?
I think so. I think some people are gonna be like, you know what, man? You know, you separate the artist from the from the art. You know, and I think this song. I remember hearing this. I don't know. I don't remember.
Those riffs are fucking.
Yeah.
I don't care. Basic, straightforward, hard, raw riffs. Those riffs are nasty.
I like them.
To me, it's just sort of a it's just sort of a visceral. It's like a visceral type of response that that is giving me. It's like yeah,
it's hard. It's hard.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
And to me, I don't know, man. I just feel like, again, I like going back and revisiting some of these bands, man, because again, I know this era, post grunge or whatever the case may be, just doesn't get a lot of love. They say this is kind of when rock started. Well, this is the 90s though, so I shouldn't say that. The 90s was still pretty.
That was hot.
Pretty fucking good for everybody, every genre. You know what I mean? Which is why I think it's arguably the greatest fucking year or decade of music.
Ever.
Ever. Because everything was hot. Not just like Motown. I'm talking about whether it be rap, rock, metal, country, everything was at a high level. When I look back at this time, man, just to me, it sounds, I know that there are certain elements in this that are pretty sort of generic. The riffs aren't anything spectacular, but even the breakdown after those riffs and the way he's singing it, this whispery, this devilish sort of whisper that he has.
It's like almost eerie and like, you just like, oh, okay, it's different.
There's still something different and interesting about this, which is why I think he was such a big deal. He was so, anti whatever. You know what I'm saying? I even think he was anti even from a rock perspective, rock metal perspective.
Yeah,
he was so crazy.
Definitely a silo. He was definitely on his own. Yeah, you know what I mean, his own sound, his own look, his own everything.
Again, I know the word generic gets thrown around with a lot of bands that came, going into the early 2000s, because this was 90s going into the early 2000s. I think this was actually 96 now, so really, but that generic word gets thrown around. But as we go back and we look at the game tapes, man,
that's true.
There was a lot of innovative shit going on. I'm just saying it, at least in my opinion.
That's true.
All right, let's keep it going, guys.
Yeah, that's hard.
All of this sounds. Yeah, this is kind of hard to be, man.
Yeah.
This actually is because again, this is music that I wasn't really rocking with. It was kind of the butt of a lot of our jokes, to keep it real.
But in
high school and when I was a youngin', I mean, just his whole image and everything just threw us off, and we were just.
And it's hard to get by that, right? It's hard to see through that, right? And that's why I love this channel, man, because as we've progressed here and we've learned a lot about music, all genres, man, for me personally, I know I said that earlier, you can separate the artist from the art, because I'm really able to do that a lot more efficiently now, and a lot more.
Well, you've matured and and
I'm a lot more open.
Do I still think that it's an odd sort of appearance? Of course I do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that I can't see the dopeness.
Yeah.
The
and
dopeness in what I'm doing, what we're hearing here. You know what I mean? So salute to him. We're going to get into the lyrics at a certain point, but I didn't want to stop it too long here. Let's get back to it. This is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard.
This is hard. I mean, I can see why that was massively popular, dude.
Yeah.
You had this sort of figure, man. There's not, I don't know, man. Again, and maybe it's just a nostalgia. You know, I just feel like there were dudes that were, the people who were sort of bred in this time, well, again, in any genre, were just risk takers. They were just, what sort of interesting figures do we have that have come out as of recent? I'm trying to think of just these crazy polarizing, like in rap. In rap, you had Pac that was just spitting in cameras, and I'm not saying I'm not condoning behavior, but he was spitting in cameras, walking out of courtrooms like, get the fuck out of here, grabbing his dick like, this is what I believe. I don't give a fuck what you talk about. He was so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just so polarizing and so sort of steadfast.
That's what I was gonna say. He was really set in what he believed.
Yep.
The bottom line of what you thought was irrelevant, right?
Yep.
What you perceived of him, he didn't really care, right?
Right. Certain things that he sort of displayed in his behavior.
Right.
You know, you could say whatever you want to say about that, but this guy was an individual. You know what I mean? And I just don't know. And maybe I'm just, again, this could just be my nostalgia from this time period. But I'm just thinking of artists today, and I just know who are people who are trying to really break the mold, and are just unapologetically just them.
Yeah, I don't know
who. You know what I mean?
I'm sure there's someone, but we're just not thinking of them right now. But that's the point you're trying to make.
Yep.
I mean,
but even the artists that we like, there's a lot of artists that I like now that I don't feel like they're just fucking once in a lifetime personality or once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
I just don't see it as much anymore.
That's true.
You know,
you're right, man.
You know, I remember when I was watching the MTV Awards and Rage Against the Machine, you know what I mean, was sitting up against the damn they climbed up against one of the structures in the back for the stage, and they were just like rocking back and forth on it while someone was delivering like an award. Just like dudes that were just completely rebellious and whatever because this is like, we're gonna get into the lyrics, anti whatever, fuck that. I'm shaking the game up. I don't see too many people shaking the game up.
Yep, I agree with that, man. I agree with that.
You know, so that's what I got just now that I look back on it, and it just makes me kind of appreciate actually Marilyn to a degree. Some of the things he was doing. Maybe was it exaggerated with some of the things he was doing? Maybe for shock value. I'm sure, but it takes a special to. Dude, he's still like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
he's toned it down a little bit. I've seen something recent for him, but it takes something genuine within you to really be able to. And you have it's hard to fake that for a long time.
Yeah, and you just have to be comfortable with who you are, right? To pull it off and really not waver at all. You know, you have to be really confident on who you are and what you believe in and what you stand for and your purposes. So, I dug that song, man, and I'm so glad we listened to it now as me being an adult, and I could really kind of give it some critical feedback. But I want to get back to that question, man. Of how do our metal subscribers feel about this? I can't wait to see the comments, but I think it would be 50-50, and I think it really should be more 80-20 because I think it's checking all the boxes, right? It's got the mean riffs, right? It's got the hard guitar riffs, it's got the drumming in it, it's got creativity, it's got we're gonna get into the lyrics here in a minute, but it seems like it's got some substance here as well, you know, of maybe like a political stance and maybe like, you know, capitalism or something like that. But I think it's checking a lot of boxes. Like if I was a metal, like what I like about metal now, I'm just gonna speak for me. Fuck it. What I like about metal now is I like those dirty, mean riffs, especially if the groove is if the riffs are kind of in focus or not in focus, but if they're in tandem with the groove, I really like that. Yeah. I really like the way that sounds, and I think it has some transitions, which I really like transitions a lot. I think it has that, and I think it actually the way it transitioned was still smooth, and it went into it nicely, but it still caught you off guard. Because it's been a long time since I've heard this song, and I haven't really dug into the song. So
was he generic to y'all though?
I don't think so.
Was Marilyn Manson generic? I'm really curious to hear what metalheads have to say about that because I don't really feel he was generic.
I just think
when he came on the scene, like, and I just to piggyback on what you're saying, when he came on the scene, we used to talk about checking boxes. An important box to check is to be an individual in metal. They want you to be your own. Don't use any other things from any other people. If you've heard something and you use it in your music, copying, generic, formulaic, that's the favorite. That's sort of the word that keeps circulating around for this time. I want to say not this time because this is 96-ish, but getting into the early 2000s, it got really generic, and I don't feel that way with him. I think actually he was extremely different.
I think so too.
Even in comparison to the other dudes that were like more on the extreme side with the appearance. I remember him being like, "What the fuck," you know. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys are gonna say. But getting into the lyrics, say regarding Marilyn Manson, but getting into the lyrics, to me, just to sum it up, I mean, there's a couple lines in here that I thought were interesting. He said, "It's not your fault that you're always wrong.
The weak ones.
The weak ones are there to justify the strong. The beautiful people, the beautiful people." So it's all relative to the size of your steeple. You can't see the forest from the trees, and you can't smell your own shit on your knees. So to me, when he says weak ones, and then you can't smell your own shit on your knees, you can't smell the shit that you're in because you're following people, right? You're the weak ones justifying giving the power to the strong. It's almost like you're following this sort of, you're weak. You're giving way to people. And I think you had mentioned capitalism.
Yep. And you're not part of the solution, right? Because the line before that, right? He said you can't see the forest from the trees. I love that metaphor, right? Because when you're on the top and you're delivering orders, you really don't understand the bullshit in the forest, right? Or the things that's going on in the country in this example. You know, I really like that. I think it gives you a really good visualization of what's of how, like, even a boss, right? Like, let's take a company, for example. If you're a boss of a company and you never do the day-to-day grind, do you really have a good heartbeat of what's going on in the company? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know? And I think in that analogy, the country is the company, right? You know what I'm saying? And if you're at the top, right, it's hard to see the forest from the trees. If you're at the top and you're barking orders down and you're maybe like kind of sort of a dictatorship, you don't understand what's really going on.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I see it as he's looking at his perspective on society, capitalism, right? He's seeing this is a sort of a capitalist society, and he sees people are just weak. And they're not able to see the situation because they're following. The weak ones are there to justify the strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all relative to the size of your steeple. He's talking about capitalism and materialism there. And you can't smell your own shit on your knees. You know what I'm saying? You can't understand the shit that you're in, you know what I mean? Because you're too busy kneeling to the powers that be. So to me, this is almost like a wake-up call.
I can see that too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Like a more of a wake-up call to those, and to bring light to the fact that, you know, capitalism is something. Capitalism can make way to fascism, as I believe is what he said. Old-fashioned fascism will take it away.
Yep.
So if we continue on this path and if you allow yourself to continue to constantly be manipulated, this is what's going to happen. Yeah. Fascism, complete government control.
Just dictatorship.
Right. So it starts off with everyone trying to get money, and they're just destroying everything in their path and en route to getting the money. And then once you have the money, you have the power, and you have the power. That means I control everything you do.
Done deal.
So it's like, wake up, the beautiful people. You know what I mean? I guess when he's saying the beautiful people, is the beautiful people maybe the strong people. You know what I mean? But they're not really strong. They're not beautiful, right? It's sort of sarcasm there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think it is. More sarcasm more than anything. You know?
So, I mean, that's how I'm taking it. But I actually think that the lyricism is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's creative.
And I think once
the riffs are very visceral and raw. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I just think once you get past the way he looks, and I think that was really my hang up with him back in the day. Yeah. Years ago, that was my hang up with him. You get past that, man, you really see the art, not necessarily the artist, you know what I mean, and the polarizing things that he's doing. I think you can really see the beauty in it.
And I think what doing songs like this does for me sometimes, man, is it gives me an all-new appreciation. I think that happens a lot on the channel. Like, people will be fans of bands for a while, but for whatever reason, they'll kind of just veer away from the band, or they'll just stop listening to them. And then they'll hear maybe a fresh set of ears on it, right? And they'll hear us talk about the band, and then it just makes them look back and say, you know what? You know, I look back and now, man, I didn't really know what I had. You know what I'm saying? I actually do. I really appreciate this band. And it happens to me all the time in rap. Like, when I listen to old school rap, and I'm like, man, we didn't really know what we had then, man. Like, I really appreciate this artist now, more so than than I did maybe in the past. Maybe I just kind of liked them. So that's what I'm getting out of this. So shout out to Marilyn Manson, man. So that's the end of the video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Another pick. So we're going to keep doing these picks for you guys as well.
Yes, sir.
I'm George. That's Ryan, Lost in Vegas.
We out.
We out.